What's up, everybody? It's your boy Andrew L. Case, and you are now tuned into the Middle Initial Podcast, episode 100. Finally, we have made it after 2 years of trying, uphill grinding. We are here, episode 200. The live stream, I got Jude in the building, of course. We got my man Dan in the graphics department, the guy who is behind the scenes for a lot of the work that we do, and in front of the scenes, trolling you guys. We got two VIPs who respond to the golden ticket, Steven and Seamus. What's going on, guys? Thank you for being here. What's going on, Jude? 100 episodes. What's up, man?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies, but it's been a really enjoyable ride doing all of these episodes. And this year especially, it's been really enjoyable because we're doing these episodes after mostly Jets win. So it's been great, and I'm honored to work with you. I'm honored to work with Kev. I'm honored to work with Dan. It's been a great time. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for having me.
Kev could not be here tonight because Kev, his birthday weekend. This is his birthday weekend. He's still partying, so he could not be in attendance. My man Dan's in the building. Dan, what's going on, bro?
What's going on? Thanks for letting me show my face and use my voice. No, but I echo Jude's sentiments. It's crazy that we're here. We couldn't do it without all the support that we've been getting from all you guys. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's an exciting time to be a fan of the teams we're a fan of, and we got a lot of cool stuff coming after 100, post 100. So it's going to be a wild ride. Stick around. It's going to get fun.
Absolutely, man. The people have definitely heard your voice several times. Dan has done an excellent job filling in as an emergency host in case we need him. Definitely our resident photographer. So a lot of those dope photos you've seen are from the hands of Dan, and he's probably worked on a bunch of different streams and podcasts before. So shout out to Dan, always being consistent and just a great guy to have on the team. Two special guests tonight. We got Steven and Seamus, fans of the show and guests of the spaces. Welcome to Middle Initial Podcast, episode 100, guys. Let's start with you, Steven.
Woo! Episode 100, baby, man. Congrats to you guys, man. Congrats. Repping the merch. As you can see here, this is my first stream. I want to congratulate and you guys again for 100 and appreciate the invite to this. I feel humbled and honored, man. It really is. I remember when Spaces started and I started listening to you guys because you guys were diehards, Jet fans, and we've gotten along ever since, man. I can't believe it's already 100 now, and we'll see you guys climb the ladder to 150 and 200.
Man, I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, we've been doing this for a while now, and Steven is definitely one of the OGs of our spaces. And I was more than happy to extend an invite to Steven. And also another guest who basically comes in religiously every space we have Friday and Sundays. Got my man Seamus. What's going on, Seamus?
How you doing, guys? Congrats on the number 100. I have been enjoying the spaces a lot in the podcast. I joined kind of late in the season. I can't remember, but I remember like it was very fun being in the spaces, and even like grew up being a Jets fan. But I'm also kind of like a casual kind of like sports fan. So to even be a casual fan and just kind of be engaged in the spaces is always fun. So I'm happy to be here.
Definitely, man. Seamus is another consistent, loyal guy to the show, and we don't consider people who mess with Middle Initial Podcast fans. Man, you guys are like family. We talk about games. Some of us have met in person at tailgates and everything like that. I wish that we could get one of you guys to come out one of these days, or maybe we'll meet in a different city or something like that. But definitely a part of this whole golden ticket situation was to have people come on. My son is here, Asan. We're chilling. I'm on daddy duty tonight, so he's going to definitely chime in. But the great thing about 100th episode, guys, is a victory. And the Jets won today, beating the Green Bay Packers, leaving all doubt on the field. Today, the Jets were dominant on both sides of the ball, on offense and on defense. Aaron Rodgers did not look like a guy who was getting well. A lot of people thought this would be a get well game for the Packers, but Stone Cold says, not today. No get well game for you. All right. So,
It was a get worse game. If anything, it was a get worse game for him. Not get well, it was get worse.
definitely. Definitely. Like Quinnen was a beast up the middle. The defense was on fire. Listen, I believe they stole that first touchdown from us. That Sauce Gardner off the tip of Catania. It looked like he hit his hand. They set it to the ground, but I believe they stole a touchdown from us on defense. But the special teams touchdown was big. The block punt, the block field goal. Like this Jets team played well together from pillar to post. And surprisingly, again, it wasn't a wire to wire victory, but they did what they had to do to score in the third quarter, and they had to do to separate in the fourth quarter. The Jets are still one of the best fourth quarter teams in the league. I know Dan is very excited. Dan, talk about the Jets victory being 4-2, what that means to you.
No, I mean it's a fun time, right? Because I think last week and before the game this week, I tweeted out, my feelings on it is like if you want a true litmus test for a culture change, last week was a perfect example of where everybody got hyped. Home game, division rival, they usually get blown out. They ended up blowing out the opponent. So that's a past, test in my opinion. And then now they're being, they were overhyped all week, and the pregame shows and the interviews, the next test would be handling prosperity, right? And again, it's usually a game they lose in embarrassing fashion. And they came out, and honestly, that game should have been a blowout by halftime. If the offense wasn't so bad in the first half, it wouldn't have been close. So, I mean, they're 2 for 2 in these tests, and now they go into Denver. That's a bad team. They play the Pats. That's a bad team. So, I'm fully expecting 6-2. When they play Buffalo in 3 weeks. So, I mean, it's exciting.
I'll agree with you on Denver. They are a bad team. I'm not sure about the Patriots being a bad team. I mean, bad teams don't win with a third string quarterback 2 weeks in a row. I think it'll be a very, very interesting game for sure. Oh, sorry. It'll be a very interesting game for sure. I'm sorry, I'm on the train right now, so you get to hear the train announcer. But the big thing I found interesting about that game was the fact that the refs really helped the Packers out more than they should have. Like, it was egregious sometimes, like the late hit that wasn't called. All these pass interference, all these late hits, and all that stuff. I'm thinking to myself, like, about the refs, I honestly don't think the Packers scored a touchdown. Like, it was that egregious. So,
well, the taunting was just like ridiculous.
Yeah, the mysterious unsportsmanlike. I think it was because someone said it was because some coach got too close to the official or something, which is so soft. Train's moving. Yeah. So I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the late hit on Breece Hall was one of the things. There's definitely some calls that they missed, but it didn't change the good thing of the game. The Jets were still who they were throughout. Again, we're not seeing much passing offense from the Jets right now because the running game is so good. Braxton Berrios with another rushing touchdown. Breece Hall being what he is again for the second consecutive week. Even Carter got some run in there as well. The Jets are definitely showing. They definitely have an identity when it comes to what they want to do, which is run the ball well and play great defense. Now, again, for me personally, I do want to see more with the vertical game. Elijah Moore just keeps getting pretty much pushed out of the offense at this point, and that's a big question mark. That's a big question mark. I was talking to DJ offline. I was like, yo, what do you think about this? Generally thinking about that. And he was like, yo, that's not a good sign, for him not to be playing and getting as much run as he should. But again, Zach has his favorites as far as Corey Davis. We saw that big play to Corey Davis on a great route. His man's Braxton Berrios, again, another guy who's a Zach Wilson favorite. I know he was building chemistry with Elijah Moore last year. We have yet to see anything, but we're winning. So, take it for what it will be. Eventually, we're going to have to pass more. And hopefully when we do, we utilize everybody. Steven, what are your thoughts of today's game?
Well, obviously, like you said, if you're the best lessons to learn are lessons from wins. If you're gonna learn some lessons, might as well win while you do it too. A couple of quick things. I gotta comment on the refs. The egregious one to me was the Brees Hall one, but I could overlook that if the ref wasn't in his pocket about to throw the flag and the other ref comes over and stops him, telling him that the Packers check cleared and that they don't have to throw the flag. So that was the egregious one to me. The second thing, I gotta admit, I mean, I've always been, okay on Quinnen Williams, but today, man, he was the best player on the field. I mean, that man was doing everything. I mean, he blocking field goals. They couldn't block him with one or two guys. And for the first time, in my opinion, he looked like the third overall pick of a draft, and he was dominant. And I mean, if that's what we're getting, ever since that blow up on the sideline, he's been a different animal. And it's great because now that you've got Carl Lawson starting to get into form, and you've got JFN and you got Bryce Huff, it's looking good for that D line. I mean, this was the most dominant. I said it in a tweet. I was like, is this the most dominant pass rush the Jets have had without blitzing since like Abraham and Ellis back in like Herm Edwards days? So I'm really encouraged with that. And then of course Brees Hall. I mean, this man, he just runs the ball. He's a difference maker. He just misses. He's never going to get brought. It looks like he hardly ever gets brought down with the first initial contact. He's always fighting, and to have that juice once you get some space. I mean, when he got a little bit of space on that touchdown run, he was gone, and I loved it. The passing attack, obviously, hopefully it obviously needs some work and some chemistry. But if we're going to run the ball like this, and this is what the early versions of the 49ers were, which is run. But we obviously have to work on the passing attack. But man, like you said, Case, the Jets are a fourth quarter team, and it shows. It's really becoming a really good habit that they've picked up on, man. I love it. I love today, man. It was honestly the best feeling I've had because we've won games in the past, but this one felt different, like with Sauce. And oh man, just for that moment, if we could have had that play with Sauce getting that tipped and interception for a pick six, that as a moment, that would have been everything, man.
Yeah, bro. It was definitely a lot of big moments today at the game, and the defense being one of them. Quinnen was playing like a man possessed. You talk about the blocked field goal, right? At first, we thought it was not Lawson. We thought it was
Clemens. We thought it was Clemens.
Thought it was Clemens because it was close. It was that close. But then what Clemens does later on in the game, he blocks a punt. The Packers had no answer for the Jets up the middle, and even the sack that Rankins got on the stunt play, delayed stunt, Quinnen took his guy, hands to the chest, and pushed him all the way in. That stunt was a delayed stunt. Rankins comes around the corner, crushes Aaron Rodgers, and it was just like a beautiful thing to see on defense. And that run, that play design for the runs, for the scoring runs, the one to Brees and the one to Berrios. The thing that I was noticing is that LaFleur does have kind of an MO where they keep things close in the first half, and he runs pretty much the same similar type of formation and plays, and then he unleashes the formations and schemes in the third and the fourth quarter, which is why the Jets are such a great second half team, because he's figuring out his second half offense and call it an adjustment, call it figuring it out, but whatever it is, but it's working. It's worked 3 weeks in a row. And to the chagrin of these two teams you just beat, Miami and Green Bay, it was definitely, we're steamrolling and that's it. Once we start steamrolling, we get that momentum, the game's over. If you can't stop us right here, it's done. Seamus, what was your thoughts about today's game?
The first half was very stressful because I could have gone either way. And the I think it was a good win to get for today because the referees were so bad and there was so many questionable ones. And I think the one that was on the top of my list was the clear grounding from Rodgers that he threw at his center. And I'm literally going like this, oh, they're not catching it. Yep. Steven agrees. Yep. Brees Hall, chef's kiss, just a little that, but I just kind of felt like they needed to kind of overcome the bad calls, because the last thing the team needs to have is losing and be like, oh, well, the refs did this and that. The fact that you can kind of overcome two different factors and still win is good. I was also a little nervous with Zach Wilson in that second quarter-ish when he was trying to throw it deep in the end zone, but I felt like he also got better. I feel like now the last 3 games, he's also kind of adjusting as the game goes on, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, again, the stuff that the Jets have done well so far since Zach's return has been the fourth quarter, second half type of stuff. I was wondering today if we were going to score a third quarter touchdown. We did, and then we scored a special teams touchdown, which was big. And even when the Packers scored and it came down the field, they scored, and people, we felt like, oh, maybe the comeback is imminent. Nope, we came right back down. Boom. You know what I mean? And that's what the Jets did today, and that's what they've just been doing different since Zach's return. And you can't be nothing but excited about what's going on. I know we would like to look ahead to the schedule and stuff like that, but there's certain things I don't want to do is get ahead of myself. I know Denver seems like food to a lot of people offensively, but that's still a great defense that the Denver Broncos are yielding. I think it'll be a little closer than what people think. Dan, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen with the Jets and the Broncos?
Traveling out to Denver, is always a tough task. And I mean, look, you can look at the teams on paper. All you guys have been watching the sport for a long time. You know that you lose winnable games. You win games you should lose. So, I mean, who really knows? The one thing that I'm excited about, and I think all of you guys hit on it, is that the Jets haven't really put it all together, for 4 quarters at all, and they're still winning. And, the Zach thing is a big thing. And I'm starting to turn into a Zach Wilson apologist. I'm not, but, it's his third game back. And there are a lot of weapons on this team that he has to get chemistry with. And he's doing it, in live game situations while not wanting to screw up, or throw that interception because he's forcing the ball to Elijah or Garrett. So, I expect the chemistry to get better, and we'll see what comes with that. The defense is gelling. They should continue to, hurt people. It's just a matter of the offense getting everybody involved and getting that chemistry, because they could be so much better. And when they get there, it's going to be scary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Seamus, what are your thoughts? Looking ahead to the schedule, we get the Broncos next. Is that a winnable game? Should we be looking forward towards 5-2?
I think yes and no. I still feel like, because the thing with Denver, right? It's also they're mile high, and like the altitude and all that's also a factor too. And like, I've also so here's the thing, right? I've always kind of loved the cringy kind of Russell Wilson dad jokes that he does on social media with like the sandwich or the danger witch or what he called it. So I'm afraid to say it's an easy win, because if it backfires, I'll take responsibility for it. But no, I think like Denver is just that team that like they have all the pieces. They just haven't figured out how to like put it all together yet. And I don't know, like, they play Monday night, right? So they play tomorrow. They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's winnable, but I think it's like barely winnable. I think it's gonna be one of like the weird like 12-9. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of happens. Hopefully it doesn't, but I think how they play tomorrow would be a good indicator. Like, and then I guess it's kind of like on the fence, but like how they play tomorrow on offense, I think will give a good indicator. But the Broncos defense is still pretty good. Like, Patrick Surtain is so great, and like, but still, easy win, I guess.
No, I mean, listen, today had all the makings of that type of game early when it was 3-3. And I was like, okay, this might be one of those like 9-3 games, like the old Packer game, right? Or like a 12-3 or something like that. But the Jets figured it out. I think my biggest fear is if it does stay around that score where it's pretty tight, we won't be able to do anything offensively. And the Broncos are good enough to get down the field and get field goals. We've seen that at least with the Colts game, a game they definitely shouldn't have lost. But I don't know what they were thinking, throwing trying to go for the end zone when they were in the red zone instead of just kicking a field goal, be up by 6. But that's my biggest fear, that the Jets and the Broncos will get in a defensive stalemate, but the Broncos have just enough offense to get downfield. Steven, what are your thoughts about next game?
So, look, Seamus, to comment on what you said too, because I'll even admit I woke up this morning and even I called my buddy like an hour before kickoff, and I was getting jitters and nerves about like, oh, the Jets, like they had a huge win last week. This is typical Jets. They'll get like blown out today, or they won't like no show or something like that. Like every week I'm looking for like little tests that the Jets are slowly achieving. Like today, I would have been happy with obviously a win, but I would have been happy with them competing, showing up, and just showing that they belong in the NFL. And they did way more than that. They blew the doors off Rodgers, and they showed that, you know, our corners were way better than their receivers. We shut them down. Our defense, our pass rush overwhelmed them. So every week I'm looking now for something. So next week, can we handle more success? Because we are just as good, just like how we look at Denver. You know, Denver looks at us like, oh, it's like you guys said, the get right game. But we honestly are riding the momentum. Our defense is really gelling, because I think the way they looked in the beginning of the couple weeks compared to how they look today, night and day. Like this defense is the best showing, obviously, over under Salah's tenure here. So it's just another opportunity for me, I think, to pass another litmus test. Can we handle the prosperity of winning 2 in a row? Like Salah's been saying, make this normal. Don't make this like, oh, we won 2 in a row. We're like, yeah, this is, make it normal. Make a 3-4 game win streak normal. And then, you know, because honestly, not to look ahead again, but like the big test to me is Belichick, because I think we are better than New England talent wise, but he's obviously the excellent coach. And like to Jude was saying earlier about like he's just the top of the class coach wise, and you don't win with the third string without that. So, but with Denver, the mile high is scary, going on the road again. But this team is, you know, we're 3-0 on the road, and it's just one of those things. Like, you know, I heard this once, like, because we're so young of a team, we've got guys that came from colleges that like didn't lose that much. They're not the same old Jets because they didn't grow up in this. They know winning, and they know how to. And I think that's what's cool about this is like they're all putting it together. The one test, I mean, Garrett Wilson, I mean, he had his big game in Cleveland. I'm looking for him to rebound because he's had a couple of drops. And he hasn't been as explosive. He was covered by Alexander today, and him going against Surtain, like that would be a nice matchup if we could get him going or more going on the opposite side. And thank God Davis is finally living up to that contract. He's really been clutch in these last games ever since the Cleveland one. So I'm looking for, personally, for the first time with like oomph, I'm going to pick the Jets to win this week, and like not like feel like it's just hope. It's like, I think if you just look at the momentum of both teams, like you guys said, you got to look at what Denver does tomorrow, but just looking at the momentum of both teams, I mean, the Jets are on the come up, and it's a game that we should win.
Absolutely. I mean, the Broncos are suffering from the Nathaniel Hackett syndrome. I definitely agree with you with the things as far as like offensively what the Jets need to do better in the passing game. We've had the Corey Davis game. We've had the Garrett Wilson game. I think we need to have an Elijah Moore game. Like, we got to feature him in the game. I mean, Braxton Berrios has 2 more touchdowns than Elijah Moore has for the season. Elijah Moore has the same amount of touchdowns that I have for the season. And that's the thing that's kind of bothering me as far as the Jets offense. Not saying that it won't change, but what have we been saying? This offense can be dynamic and explosive with the weapons that we have. And it does look like that in the run game, and outside of a few key passes, you know, it's there. But Zach Wilson is not Trent Dilfer. He's not Brad Johnson, when he throws, you know, maybe 150-yard pass and then, you know, finishes 10 for 14 and a win. And it's like, oh, great for game managing, which I love, which I know Jude loves. He loves that aspect of death. But, and I'm going to pass this on to Jude. Jude, what do you think about the Jets offensively? How long can they sustain this type of offense, limiting the vertical game?
You know, the weird thing about the offense is I think they can go vertical when they want to, but there's a couple of things. I think Mike LaFleur, he outthinks himself a couple of times. Like, sometimes the game is simple. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, run the ball. He wants to go sprint outs on 3rd and 1, and the calls don't make sense and they lose momentum. Sometimes the quarterback doesn't have it. Doesn't have it, just run the ball. Brees Hall at 4.8, 5.8 yards per carry, a couple of touchdowns. Run the ball with him. There's no need to worry so much about like throwing. So I think as the game demands and as eventually the Jets will come across a team they won't suffocate. I mean, I hope they keep suffocating every team, but I'm willing to bet by the Bills game. At the Bills game, that's a team the Jets won't really suffocate. So with that, they'll definitely have to rely on the vertical game. I still like our receivers against most any corner, any defense in the league, to be honest. I think they can be that good. I think with Garrett Wilson in particular, I think it's a timing thing. I think Corey Davis and Zach clearly have a chemistry together. When the game's on the line, Zach goes to Corey Davis. And I think that's something that Belichick's going to exploit in a couple of weeks because Belichick knows Zach likes to go to Corey Davis. He's going to make Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson beat them. And honestly, I think they can do it. But Zach has to be willing to go to them. He can't force it to Corey Davis. So to answer your question, I know I was rambling a bit, but to answer your question, Case, I think eventually they'll start going vertically. I think right now we're seeing Zach kind of ease back in. And worst case scenario, he becomes Jimmy G for this year and this year only. Eventually he has to do more, but he's becoming Jimmy G this year. For now.
Hey, Dan, I was about to come to you, Dan. I know you have a rebuttal.
I have a lot.
I'm
I have a lot.
now.
I'm about to. This thing has been very friendly and PC. I think we need to like cut that off and start talking. Yes, Jude, start talking honestly. One, Zach is not Jimmy G because
I
Jimmy
didn't say
G.
he was. I said he was.
He's not becoming. He's not becoming because Jimmy G couldn't make any. About 5 of the throws Zach has already made this year in 3 games. 2, I think. Again,
I'm not saying like it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's fine for now. It's not.
It is bad.
It's not. If he's a bus driver, he's a bus driver. The defense is playing well enough.
Yeah.
You shut down Aaron Rodgers, you can be a bus driver. I don't give a shit. Win these games. I don't care. That's where I'm at right now.
I'm just saying because I think expectations are skewed and totally reasonable. But remember going into the Pittsburgh game, I think like everybody asked the question, like, what's the grace period that you give Zach to shake the rust off? And everybody was like, oh, I give him 3 to 5 games and whatever. And then he comes out in the fourth quarter and he wins it. And then he wins, 40 whatever against Miami. And everybody's thinking, they just forget about that, that he needs to establish chemistry, especially with young guys. You look at Garrett Wilson and you look at like the 3rd and 1 play calls. One thing that's very glaring about Garrett Wilson's game right now, and it's going to get better, but he's only how many games into his career, he runs short of the sticks on 3rd down all the time. You know what I mean? Like it's very frustrating because I get the call, and you can throw a short pass to him and he can do a lot. But when you're running routes a yard short of the sticks, it just makes everything harder. I think once they get that chemistry, you're going to be happy with some of these 3rd and 1 calls. Should they have run? Yes, they should have probably. Yes. But I also don't fault LaFleur for trying to get the ball in the hands of people who can make things happen.
Breece Hall can clearly make things happen. It's not like if this was Frank Gore and you're like, yeah, I'd rather get it to receivers than Frank Gore. Then yeah, sure. Breece Hall, we've seen Breece Hall make things happen. He made a reverse. A pass that was supposed to be like a double reverse Braxton Berrios catch into a touchdown. He can make things happen. It's 3rd and 1. Run the ball with him. It's not that.
It's not that simple. But it's not. But I also think it's not
that difficult.
Well, okay. Well, then everybody would do it if it's not that difficult.
LaFleur could have done it. You run on 3rd and 1.
I understand.
I get sometimes you. Oh, gone.
No, I understand both points that you guys are trying to make as far as like, on one hand, it could be easy. On the other hand, it could be difficult. It shouldn't be so difficult. But my question to you, Jude, how long do you think we can sustain this type of offense without Zach really throwing the ball? Like, you can be a game manager against teams who really don't have great defense, but Denver has a great defense. The Jets might be in more 2nd and long, 3rd and long. All depends how great the running game scheme is. So, like, what do you think against Denver? Will we see more Zach throwing the ball, or we see more a heavy dose of the running back by committee?
Well, with the game manager stuff, it comes to how our own defense how our own defense is playing too. So that's the thing. If our own defense is playing well, you can afford to be a game manager. But the Bills game, unless they have a God greatness plan ever, it's going to be very hard to stop the Bills offense. That's when Zach will have to take the ball into his hands and make some throws, make some key throws. So I think I mean, New England's not what I call an explosive offense. Who was it? Denver, clearly not explosive offense. They might be exploding out of there, but they're not explosive offense. So I think the Bills game is the game where where it's almost 99% certain you'll have to see Zach throw the ball deep, throw the ball more down. It's not so much run pass. It has to be more varied. That goes on the floor, but it also really goes on Zach too.
Well,
I think he can do it.
Can I ask you guys a question? And Steven and Seamus, help me out here. Like, can we define what a game manager is? Because I especially for the 3-game sample size that we have of Zach, I would not call him a game manager. What he did against Pittsburgh to win the game was not being a game manager. You know, last week in Miami, they scored 5 rushing touchdowns. He scored 1 of them. If you can run like that, you go with what works. That's not managing the game. That's going with the game plan. You know, today he struggled, and that will happen. You know, he hasn't even played a full season yet, but I don't necessarily think it was because they have him in a game manager role. You know, like they're trying out what works. And I think, Case, to your point, that's why they're so good at adjusting in the second half, because LaFleur, he throws things out there. He sees if they work. And when he finds out that, hey, this is just not going to work today, they pivot and they just ram what works down your throat. And they did that in the second half today. And I feel like you have to do that when you have such a stable of young players. You can't, you have to vary it up. And sometimes you're going to fail, and then you go with what works. You ride it out to get the win, and you live to fight for the next week.
I mean, in my opinion, you should. I mean, I know you didn't ask me directly, but game management pretty much is just don't mess the game up. And Zach Wilson has done that through 2.5 games. I wouldn't really count. The first half of Pittsburgh kind of messed up a little bit, but really just 2.5 games. I mean, the Dolphins game, yes, they scored 40 points. You're playing against a third-string quarterback who just got thrown into the game. He's pretty much handing you the ball deep in their own territory. Yes, I think Zach Wilson didn't have to do a whole bunch to win that game. This game against Green Bay, he did not have a good start at all. I think we can objectively say he did not have a great start at all. Second half, he opened up when he needed to. But you ride with Breece Hall, you go from there. And I think that's what it is. I think when you look at, for example, the Chiefs, Bills, I don't think yes, I believe DJ said everyone manages the game, so to speak. But I think with Chiefs, Bills, Mahomes now, and they're more aggressive. Like, you don't see them really running the ball that much. You see them throw. They go to throwing first. So I think we don't see that with Zach yet. It's not a bad thing. I'm not criticizing Zach at all. I think for the most part, he's played okay to decent, nothing too crazy. I just think for now, the role for him that the team has for him is a bit limited. I think it'll change soon. I think it'll have to change with Buffalo, but for now, it's limited.
I'm not looking at it as it, and I got Seamus. I see you, Seamus. I'm not looking at it as game manager or whatever. I'm looking at it as when does Zach start throwing the ball more? If you could predict like when he's going to throw the ball more, because he's going to have to eventually against one of these teams. And I would think it'd be Denver. So Seamus, what are your thoughts? Like when do the Jets open up the passing playbook?
Well, the game manager thing made me chuckle because I realized one of my worst guilty pleasures in the NFL is I loved Alex Smith. For whatever reason, I liked how he's just game manager. Dan, I am so sorry. I will send an apology letter.
You have something in common.
That's not on you, Seamus. You're just empowering Jude by that comment, and I can't take him with an ego.
Well, I guess like I also kind of got to my dad because my dad, when I first started watching football, like he would always be like, "Oh yeah, Alex Smith is good," and then I guess I kind of was always like, "Oh yeah, Alex, he's a good dude," I guess. But I guess like with the game manager thing, well, to answer that quickly, when will they open it up? I think they want him to be so good at being the game manager where it's like, okay, let's just let him rip it. Like, and whether that's the right way to go, I don't really can't say on that. But I feel like the game manager thing, it's like, like it is kind of part of the quarterback position is to just don't throw the game away. Like you don't draft a quarterback and say, okay, when we go out there, you need to run back in the end zone, punt the ball backwards. Like, no, like you don't, you just try to like keep your team in it. So I think like game manager it's not bad. It's definitely part of like the job description when you're on the field. I think it's more situations where it's like when there is situational parts in the game where it's like you have to throw downfield and there's no way you can dink and dunk. You have to take a chance. and then the person doesn't. And then when you watch on a replay, you see like, oh, guy was like wide open. When stuff like that happens, I get concerned. But if it's something where it's like, all right, let's just take the yards, and as long as we get points on the field or points when we're on the field, I'm okay with it. But also, I don't know if the Alex Smith comment also made it better or kind of valid, so we'll take it with a grain of salt.
The Alex Smith commentary is more so for Jude's thrill and amazement because he's a huge Alex Smith advocate, and that's what he's known for.
Men sleeping thoughts
years ago.
And this made up commentary that he makes up. But listen, I don't mind the game manager approach for Zach easing him into the offense if it's going to be vertical. But LaFleur said we're going to run the ball, and if you look at the amount of carries that Breece Hall got in comparison to Michael Carter in the game he had, the Jets clearly understand, hey, this is our offense right here. He's a big, intricate part of our offense. Much to the chagrin of guys like Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and stuff like that. Even there's a couple of, even that drive where they went like to Uzomah and then they went right to Conklin. Like, he's going to spread the ball around. No wide receiver is going to be singularly like the guy on offense, right? The guy on offense right now is Breece Hall. But that's just safe to say for the past 2 weeks is Breece Hall, offensive MVP. So, Steven, again, I'm bringing it to you, same question, but I'm going to do it in a different way. Do the Jets need to be concerned about the vertical portion of the offense, or is this style sustainable for the rest of the year?
So to answer your question, I don't think it's sustainable if the ultimate goal is to like get the playoffs and improve. If the goal is to just have Zach, like mold Zach into like a 49er quarterback, because that's what, to go back a little bit, that's what I think about when I think of this offense is obviously it originates from the Shanahan running the ball down your throat. I'll never forget the championship game where Mostert went crazy and Garoppolo, what do you have, like eight pass attempts the whole game? Whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And but they were winning and they were about to head to the Super Bowl. So that's why with this offense, it's almost like getting two different things. And I don't want to say put a square peg into a round hole, but it's like you have this great dynamic quarterback, but this basically simple offense. And it's almost like one of those things where it's like, it's kind of cool because like it's like break glass in case of emergency, because we saw in Pittsburgh, we needed to drive down the field twice and score touchdowns, and we did it because Zach can be that guy. So that's what's cool about it, because I don't think ultimately he's going to be a game manager, but like to Seamus's point, I think they're trying to at least instill in him the good habits of not throwing the ball away. I'll admit today, because the way the game was going and how off the offense was, the passing attack, I should say, when he scrambled outside towards the sideline and threw that ball to the end zone, I'll admit my first reaction was like, oh shit, did he just throw the ball away today and like throw a pick? Because it was that kind of flow with the passing game. But he also, like to Dan's point, he can make plays that like other quarterbacks, like I know it's just a simple running out and throwing the deep ball to Corey Davis, but like he's got that talent to do that, which is cool. I think to go back a little bit to what I was thinking about when he got hurt originally, because to me, it's funny, I kind of use history as like a starting point for how I think things might go. I kind of had a feeling when he first got hurt, he would come back against Pittsburgh and it would be like the Sam Darnold Dallas game. He would come back, the team would get in a boost of energy and win that game. And then I thought from that point would be the point where what do we do from there? Because we all know from Sam, it went downhill. But it's also this is also like Zach's training camp period, getting time with the guys in practice, getting time with them in live games. So to me, I'm kind of expecting this. Now, to your point about when does it need to get better and when do they open it up, it has to come game by game now. Like in Denver, it has to get a little better. And then definitely against New England, obviously, like this passing attack, it can't be 10 of 18 for 150 yards. It's got to be some explosive plays in there to open it up so that teams can't just be like, all right, you know what, we're going to start coming down on the run and stop Breece Hall, because I think that's what's eventually going to happen if we don't open it up and show that Zach could be this dynamic passer. But I think I'm okay with how things are going, because this is just like him easing in and getting time with everybody, because obviously he needs to reestablish. I don't know what him and Corey Davis did in the offseason when we signed them, because they are like best buddies and they have everything on time. But him and Elijah Moore just need to reestablish that, and he needs to get that chemistry with Garrett Wilson. But I do like how they spread the ball around. I mean, we saw, even to your point, Case, like even Brees Hall's had like the vertical passing game. Like he had that huge catch and run last week. So it's Elijah Moore's the one I would really like. I wouldn't force it, but like I would really like to see like them like get more involved and have him be maybe like the focal point for next week, because you're gonna have Surtain on Wilson. You know, eventually, like Jude said, Belichick's gonna take probably Corey Davis out because he knows that that's Zach's number one favorite target. So I would start like getting more involved in the offense so we can really get this passing attack dynamic. But it's kind of going as script. But the cool thing that I didn't expect that's happy is we're winning, and the defense is getting better. The running game is showing that it can take over a game, which is always good. So I think everything's going as script, but it obviously, to your point, the passing attack has to get little more each week to show that it can counter or complement the running game.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to say too, if you don't mind, like Steven, you made a really great point about like the Niners offense and that blueprint. I think the one indicator, at least to me, that that tells me that that's not exactly what they want to do is that, remember that whole thing where Shanahan won't, draft a receiver high because they don't believe in that type of thing. I mean, the Jets invested a top 10 pick in Garrett Wilson. They spent all this money on Corey Davis, second round pick on Elijah Moore. They invested in 2 tight ends. I don't think they would do all of that, and a quarterback, number 2 overall, obviously, just to have him manage, quote unquote, manage a game. I think it's like what all you guys are saying. It's his 3rd game back. They're easing it in. And, some fans, or some people on the timeline, I should say, they really scoff at this. But the Jets have a wealth of weapons right now, and they need to get them all incorporated. So, it's not going to be easy right off the bat. And, the hope, Case, to answer your question, is that week by week, as you said, Steven, they just got to get better. They got to incorporate new guys and get that chemistry. And hopefully by the time, they hit Buffalo, they'll have it at least more than they do now and just keep it moving.
Yeah, I don't think it's a question of them getting better. They are getting better week to week. That's not the question. The question is simply saying, when does the offensive explosion come from the vertical game? Like, the rushing game was present last week and is there this week. This is not Tennessee and Hunter and Derrick Henry, right? This is Brees Hall, who is, a great back and probably going to be offensive rookie of the year. But the question is, like, how long do we sustain this type of offense? Are we giving Zach enough burn in the vertical game to, really get out there and cut loose, right? Because to your point, Dan, you're saying we're easing him in, but easing him into what? Because we're not showing his offense. Like he averaged 10.1 yards per pass last week. He averaged 6.1 this week. And to Jude's point earlier, he did play a little worse for wear in the first half. So we haven't yet seen the full package of repertoire of that quarterback. And I don't think you draft somebody number 2 overall to be a game manager or to be, a bus driver. I think you draft somebody number 2 overall to win games with his arm, as well as, knowing how to, fall back and let the rest of the things play out themselves. So that's just my question. I mean, when do we see it? Do you think, which game do you think we see it in? And we'll take it from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead, Jude. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think part of really helping settling a young quarterback in is just better play calling. And I mean, sometimes the best way to settle a guy in is, I might be sticking on this a little bit because it's just, I find like overthinking these play calls so annoying. And like, if it's 3rd and 1, rather than forcing your quarterback out, I mean, the offensive line to start off with wasn't playing the best, and he was holding the ball quite a bit, but they weren't playing at their best. the run game, the run blocking was pretty good. And I just stick with that until Green Bay proves they can stop it. They clearly couldn't stop it, so I would have just stuck with that till they can prove it. And I think sometimes when coaches overthink themselves, it puts their quarterback in a tougher spot, so to speak. So hopefully Michael LaFleur doesn't really overthink himself going forward. I don't think he will. I think I could see the vision somewhat of what they're trying to do. The execution's not there sometimes, and sometimes there's just instances of overthinking. And Zach, he didn't have a particularly good game first half. Second half he was bad, but first game he didn't have a particularly good half. I think he only really got going once he went to Corey Davis. And I think for this offense to grow, for this offense to be great, he has to learn to trust his other receivers. Like you say, how they didn't draft Zach to be a bus driver. They didn't draft Elijah Moore high to run wind sprints. They didn't draft Garrett Wilson high to run these short routes. I think both of these guys, Zach has to look at them more. And I think he will. I'm optimistic he will. I'm not going down on him. I'm not getting down on him and anything. I think he will do those things. It's just right now for this offense to really take off, he has to look at these other guys. It can't be Corey Davis forever and Breece Hall. He has to look at Garrett Wilson. We drafted him high. He has to look at Elijah Moore. We also drafted him high. That's just what he has to do.
Yeah,
and I think once he does that, he'll go off.
Yeah, and a lot goes into that. And a case to answer your question, I'm one of those believers that whatever everybody thinks is going to happen, the opposite does, right? Like everybody thought, the Jets were going to throw all over the field today because Green Bay is the worst with play action. That wasn't the case. It was actually the complete opposite. I think everybody's scared of Surtain and, what Justin Simmons and all those folks that they have on the defense in Denver. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets came out throwing and they were successful. People were scared of Minka and the secondary of the Steelers, and Zach was perfect in that second half against them, and that was his first game back. So, Jude, what you're saying is true, but again, and I don't want to harp on this too much, but with Breece Hall, with Garrett Wilson, even with Elijah, man, they're still learning how to play the game, not only with each other, but just themselves. So, I think everybody's learning together. And at the end of the day, when something's not working, Zach's going to Corey Davis because he knows his success rate's high. He wants to win. I'd rather him do that than force an interception trying to throw to another receiver, which is something I think he's doing worlds better this year than he was last year. He's not making like really egregious mistakes.
He still has a little bit of cowboy in him. Like the play that he was scrambling for his life, he was out of bounds and he threw it. It wasn't a bad throw as far as like the guy's throwing the ball for 1 foot into the end zone. It was a rope, but it was a bad pass as far as like he shouldn't have thrown it, right? So we're going to get that. Stuff like that I'm not concerned about. All I'm concerned about is what we're going to look like vertically. And everyone has their hesitancy when it comes to answering this question. No one has answered and said, we're going to be fine. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to air it out. We're going to do this. Everyone has some sort of latency. So we're all saying the same thing, right? Because if someone was that confident in what Zach was doing, we say, yeah, by the Denver game, by the Pats game, Zach should have 300 yards. Nobody said. Everyone's like, well, if we do it like this,
next week.
Blah, blah.
I'm very confident.
No, you double down now. Double down now.
Well, no,
but you also double down.
Next week.
Listen,
we'll see about that.
The Denver, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the Denver game. But forget all that. It's a great day. The Jets are 4-2.
Can we talk about the defense for a bit? Yeah, can we talk about the defense?
We're going to get to the defense. We're going to get to the defense.
I have some words to say because
the thing that hold your piss, Jude. We're going to talk about the defense. Jude's like super excited to talk about the defense.
Just
he feels like Rex, the ghost of Rex is in the building. Yeah, can we talk about the defense? No, the defense is this thing. But we're 4-2. This wasn't a nail biter. This wasn't a booty clencher. It was a game that you could enjoy. We had the event today at the crib today. Bubba was there. Rod was there. The energy, the excitement, high fives, drinks, and food. Winning is back in New York. And on top of that, the Giants won again. Winning is back in New York. MetLife has two teams playing well above expectations. My question to the panel, starting with Seamus and then Steven, who's real, who's not? Jets, Giants. Go, Seamus.
So before this season, I told a Giants friend of mine that the Giants were going to be picking top 3, and I am so wrong. So he's going to be very happy. I gotta say the Giants. I think but it's also I'm going to go with the Giants because I just feel like both the Jets and the Giants are similar. But I think to have that kind of the factor, if I had to pick one, I'm going with the Giants. I feel like they're just so scrappy. I just don't know how they're getting out of it. And I feel like the common theme for both of these teams so far is just the ends justify the means. If it's sloppy, it doesn't matter as long as you win. And I feel like that's kind of been the Giants' mantra. I feel like Saquon's been having a resurgence and they've been using him so well. I don't know, it just feels so different to watch the Giants and just realize, oh yeah, they ran a QB sneak on 3rd and 9 months ago. And then had a head coach being like, oh yeah, we had former players call about us. Yeah, people still want to play for us. This kind of weird meltdown from an organizational standpoint for the Giants, and then seeing them rebound. But the Jets are still doing good too. I think with the Jets, it's more, there's a lot of focus on just Zach Wilson and just having him still progress and building up that defense, because the Jets defense was so bad last year. And to see the defense starting to improve and starting to be a big factor with Quinn Williams, Quan, Sauce, stuff like that. It's really great to see New York. It's great to see New York sports just do well. That's a bit of a ramble, but I'm going to say Giants, but barely.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Steven, what do you think? Jets, Giants, who's real?
Well, one, I think it's a damn shame if we could have just fast forward. We play the Giants the way the schedule works out. We play the Giants next year. Could you imagine if they were on the schedule this year, the way they both came out of nowhere and the hype train? Oh my God! It would have been insane. To answer the question, I'm actually going to say the Jets from this standpoint. I actually break it down this way. I think, and I'll give the Jets credit. Over the last 2 weeks, they've actually impressed me, but will say the Giants are the best coached of the two, to a T. It's that's what great coaching can do to a team that doesn't have that much talent. Because I think the Jets have the superior talent of the two teams, and that's what talent. If you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said the Jets were overcoming bad coaching. But the Jets coaching has actually come a long way in the last 2 weeks, to where I think it's we're 3-0 on the road. I know the Giants are 5-1. Like I said, I if you had to give me I've been really impressed with Saleh, LaFleur coaching the last few weeks, and I actually think the Jets are for real in the aspect of as long as they we've been talking about, they just got their quarterback back. We are ramping up. We're going into we went into Lambeau, who were 15-0 and haven't lost back-to-back games, and we didn't even it wasn't even a contest for our passing attack was awful in the first half, but we were dominant, especially in the second half. I totally respect what the Giants are doing. I just think if you put both, if we played them, I think the Jets would come out on top, because I think we have the superior talent, and now our coaching is catching up to that. Whereas the Giants have the superior coaching. Daboll is, he's an excellent coach. He gets everything to a T. So, but I think our talent would outweigh them, and our coaching's made strides the last few weeks.
I know Dan doesn't like to give props to the New York Giants. Dan, the Giants are 5-1. This run is undeniably good. I'm not going to ask you who's phony, who's fake, who's real, who's not. I'm going to ask you to say something nice about the New York Giants for a change.
No, I don't think I can. I think what I will say is that, it's very hard to disagree if anybody gets to 5-1. It's very tough. I don't know how to say this.
This seems painful, Dan. I can feel the pain.
No, it's not about that. It's not about that. I just want to. I'm trying to.
You can taste the bile in his liver.
That was the McDonald's.
Sucking it down. I can't speak.
No, it's not about praising them. It's more about articulating what I want to say in a nice way. Well, one, I don't think we're giving enough to who they played and how they won. Daniel Jones threw an interception in the end zone to lose the game today, and there was a DPI call. Of course, You know, the week one, they rolled the dice and got lucky, and they're playing some bad teams. I mean, again, they're playing who's in front of them, and, you know, they're not a great roster either, so you have to give them credit. But I think the worst thing, and I've said this to my Giant fan friends forever, the worst thing that they can do is what they're doing right now, because their roster's bad. It is a very bad roster. And what they're going to do is they're going to end up fucking around and winning 7 or 8 games and be stuck with Daniel Jones next year again. He stinks. Joe Flacco almost has as many yards as he does on the season, and he hasn't played in the last 2 weeks. Like, you want to talk about not running Breece Hall and sticking with the same formula for the Jets. They can't do that with Saquon all year. And
Shame.
you know what I mean?
Shame.
And also
Shame,
we'll see. But, you know, Dable is at least they look ready to play, and they look fired up, and he has turned it around, you know, whereas Gettleman really fucked everything up there. So I give them credit for that. You know, I want to see them play Philly, because they're not going to beat Philly. You know, they lost to Cooper Rush and a superior Cowboys team. So let's pump the brakes on, you know, I can't wait to see that graphic. Are the Giants the best 5-1 team in the NFL? It's not even close. There are, you know, 3-3 teams that are better than the Giants right now. But that being said, the Jets would win head to head.
Shame. Shame. Dan. Shame.
Better
Hate does
trajectory.
not make you great. No, Dan. Come on.
Shame doesn't, but shame is
The Giants.
My man's
That is true.
hating. My man's hating badly.
The Giants lost to one good not one good team. The Giants one loss to the Cowboys, 23-16. The one loss for the season, right? They beat the Titans, who are a playoff contender. They beat the Packers, who have been perennial playoff contenders, and they beat the Ravens, I know they have their own turmoil, but they're not beating bad teams. The bad teams they beat were the Panthers and the Bears. But mind you, the Giants are doing all of this with a bottom 5 roster according to health. And according to just preseason projections, the Giants are doing this without like anything. The guys are making names for themselves, right? So the next games are Jaguars, Seahawks, Texans, Lions before they play Cowboys again. It's safe to say, to make an argument that the Giants could possibly reach that game.
With 2 losses.
9-1,
I mean,
8-2.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like the Giants.
I'm willing to bet
losses,
there's no way.
The coaching, the thing now to say good and positive about the Giants is that no one expected this. No one expected this. So, Jude, I'm going to ask you this question. Could the Giants being this good right now, what does that say about the Jets coaching or the fans who made coaching excuses before? The Jets have had better talent than the Giants maybe for the past 3 seasons, and they could never put together a run like this. So what does this say about the Jets as far as coaches they've had?
You know, I think coaching does play a big part in winning and losing in this league. I think what Dabo is doing is really special. It's too early. I mean, he's coming in and is playing like a coach of the year candidate right away. You see many bad teams around the league, many teams tearing it down, rebuilding, all this stuff. They're not doing this their first year. Many teams are not doing this their first year off the bat. It's tear down and rebuild. They'll have like a 7-9 season, but to start off 5-1 like this, and you like Dan said, you play who's in front of you. They don't put that. I hate qualifying wins because Jets have had all their wins qualified too. And the thing is, no team picks their schedule. No team picks the quarterbacks they play. No team picks how good or bad a team is. It's on them. I think Brian Dabo is doing as well as you could possibly hope for if you're a Giants fan. I don't think they have a difficult decision with Daniel Jones. I think most Giants fans can see they're winning these games not because of Daniel Jones, but A, because of Saquon Barkley, and B, because of their defense. I think the opportunity came to upgrade a quarterback. The Giants will very gleefully do that. But I don't think any of it's like, oh my God, Daniel Jones is this superstar. I think they can see, and I think they can see that Brian Dabo is the one that's really making things work. And also Wink Martindale too. I mean, that seems to be a phenomenal hire. I mean, Who can you name on the Giants defense right now? I can name 3 people. Landon Collins, Leonard, who's not playing, so like someone who's active, Kayvon. Who? There's no bona fide star players on their defense. They're playing with a bunch of like just guys, and they're doing well because of the scheme. And I think that's where coaching comes into play. And I don't think it's that simple to just go 5-1 as your first year as a coach or rookie coach. Otherwise, everyone would have done it. I do think it puts magnifying glass on like coaches in their second or third year who are still talking about building a culture and they don't really have the wins to show for it. That's where I think it puts a magnifying glass on. A 5-1 start your first year as a coach, it's very, very, very extraordinarily hard to do. So I hope that does. And I tried not to dance around it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Case, can I jump into just to answer your question, or to give my answer to your question? It's a very difficult question because I said this with McDaniels. When they were 3-0, you had a bunch of people saying, "Oh my God, he's 3-0. Why can't Saleh be 3-0?" Like situations are not equal when guys step in. I don't think one success really has to do or says anything really about the Jets coaching staff, right? I mean, Saleh inherited a terrible roster. They had 22 injuries his first year, and again, everybody has injuries, but I mean, Berrios was the number 1 receiver. It was again, it's just not the same. And Jude, your point about the Giants quarterback.
Dan, you're making excuses. This is the question.
They're not, but they're not excuses.
You're making excuses. They are because the Giants
roster circumstances
is depleted. They have one good player. No, listen,
that's not true.
There has to be a point in time where, as fans, there's a point in time as fans where we say to ourselves, we kind of got shafted in the coaching area. And, we kind of had to wait for a lot of learning curves because guys were hired who may or may not have been ready. It's clear that Daboll is ready to be a coach, right? Especially an NFL head coach, clearly, right? The front office didn't come in and say, hey, we're going to get this guy, that guy. They said, we don't got no money. Forget the salary cap is illusion stuff, all that. We don't have it to spend. And the way that we're going to rebuild, Daniel Jones may or may not be the quarterback. They were all prepared for Tyrod Taylor to be the quarterback. It was probably the most unluckiest quarterback in NFL history. The Giants didn't have anything going for them, and yet they're 5-1. So you look back at these Jets teams who had certain guys who were talented in certain positions, and they couldn't get any of that out of that roster. So I'm just asking questions about, our coaching situation. I know now it's better, but we went the talent route. We drafted a bunch of talent. Our GM came in and drafted a bunch of young talent. Go ahead, Seamus.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that both fan bases can agree on, thank God we did not hire Matt Rule for both franchises.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, that's a good one. Thank Mike McCagnon. Mike McCagnon did his thing. I know.
McCagnon knew.
But Case, it's like look at every Jets coach. Rule. Look at every Jets coach who the first year they went 10-6 and made the playoffs, and then they fell off after that. Like, I mean, we're judging Daboll 6 games into his career, acting like he's on a fast track to something we really don't know that yet. 6 games doesn't tell the entire story. And for me, and I will stick with this, I'm not making excuses for anybody, but they are circumstances, and everybody has a different set of circumstances and how they develop, how they operate, how they do a lot of this stuff. So that's why I just don't think they're equal, in my opinion. I'm not taking credit away from anybody else or anything like that, but I just don't see comparing the two when the situations are completely different.
I think it's an aberration somewhat that Brian Daboll. I think it's an aberration somewhat that Brian Daboll was this good. I think it's more his own ability. I don't think it's an expectation that coaches the first year should be like 5-1. I think they should have competitive games and not get blown out. But a 5-1 with a terrible roster, maybe 1-3 coaches in this league can do that right now. I mean, that's the thing. I think Brian Dabble should win. He probably should win Coach of the Year. To be honest, I don't think there's any.
Let the season play out first, though. If he continues, yes, you're 100% correct.
Robert Saleh should win Coach of the Year. Then Robert Saleh should win Coach of the Year.
But that's not what I'm saying, though. But my point is, you of all people who love to jump on the Jets the minute something goes wrong, are, like you won't crown them. You won't crown them. You won't give them credit. You're already saying Dable is this great coach.
But Dan, the question was not about historically, only, but just say where they are. The Giants are 5-1 with the bad roster, with the question mark at quarterback, with a running back come back from major injury. This was with a brand new coach, right? And the Jets have put it together, but the answer was talent, right? We've seen what the front office do well. Joe Douglas, guys are paying off immediately. Breece Hall, immediate payoff. Reed, immediately paying off, right? Even Quan Alexander, who wasn't even a major pickup, immediately paying off, right? There's a lot of guys that from Joe Douglas have been building, and this seems like finally, after waiting for at least 3 seasons, almost 4 seasons, it's finally paying off. The talent is there. And what AVT just did was remarkable. Playing guard, playing left tackle, playing right tackle. That was remarkable. And that is Joe Douglas's stamp on that. So I'm very surprised, yet again, at the pen, in the easy bait right there to give Joe Douglas his props. I was letting give you an opportunity to give Joe Douglas his props. My man, Cracker is in the building. All gas, no brakes pod. The Banana.
Yo. What's going on, guys? Just wanted to stop in and say happy 100 episodes and hopefully 100 more to come. But no, today was awesome, and this is like a great day for you guys to hit this milestone, because it's like you guys are hitting these milestones, and we got the Jets hitting milestones of their own. We're with our three game winning streak now. Like, when was the last time we were 2 games over 500? I couldn't even tell you the last time that was, but it must have been 2015.
2015. Everything is 2015.
Yeah, but no, I was I was at the game too. Like, so I went to Lambeau today, and just it was an awesome stadium, an awesome experience, and Jets fans low key took that place over. Like, there was a lot of us there.
Oh, you were there? Oh my goodness! Oh goodness gracious, we were there. Oh goodness, I'm about to faint over here. You must have experienced the history of Lambeau Field and everything. Just felt the energy.
What? Whoa!
Yes. Sorry for interrupting.
Dude, yeah, it's a stadium, not a woman. goodness gracious.
No, it was pretty surreal.
That was some Murgatroyds. You were.
Thank you for calling that out. I feel like
How
I'm getting
deep
on
inside
too much, dude. I don't want to say anything.
How deep inside were you in Lambeau?
Pretty deep.
Golly gee willikers.
Pretty deep.
like 33 rows deep.
You're speaking to your language here.
What was it like to be at like the stadium though, and like the history of the stadium? Like, did it just feel like a regular stadium, or could you feel like the NFL history when you were there?
It definitely felt different. Like, this isn't saying much, but definitely different from like going to MetLife or whatever. Like, at the end of the day, like, the experience is the same. Like, it's a stadium, there's beer, there's food, there's a game, and stuff like that. But it definitely just like being in like an older building like that and just like looking around, you could definitely like kind of like feel and kind of appreciate, the history and stuff like that. Like, I didn't really get to tour it too intently, so I didn't I didn't really see like everything there was to see. But even just like looking around the stadium, you're sitting in like bleachers as opposed to like seats. So like, and like everyone's kind of on top of each other. So it's like, it's kind of like an old school football vibe in like that sense. But even just like, looking around and, you see like their like Hall of Fame thing and you see like all the names, like, you see like Brett Favre up there, LOL, but, Bart Starr too. And like all the great Packers. So yeah, it was definitely it was definitely a cool experience. And like if you're a football fan, it's definitely a place I'd recommend going to.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely on the slate of what we wanted to do. We did want to do some road games this year. I think Jude still might end up going to Seattle. I may have to take a rain check on that, but yeah, like that's definitely sounds like a great experience. I know Gotham City Crew, who does great with stuff like that, inviting people out with these packages to go to the games. Shout out to Gotham City Crew. If you guys are following, I know most of us are. But let's get into 100 episode stuff, man. This is episode 100, right? I got a bottle of champagne just for this occasion. You know what I mean? We are celebrating.
We're drinking
2 years of podcasting. 2 years of 100 episodes, 2 tailgates that sold out, draft party event that sold out, clothing line is doing well. It's a lot to celebrate. It's a labor of love. It's definitely had its perks, man, as far as like the people we were able to meet and the guests we were able to have, and you guys who are part of the spaces and even have been a part of the show in different ways. This is my way to get you guys a part of an episode, a part of our personal history. So I'm going to let Jude say a few words and open this bottle of champagne.
Well,
Ole!
Nice. I want to thank everyone who's here, who's listening to this, who listens to our pod, comes to our events, who does everything with us. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. Doing this podcast with Case, Kev, and Dan, it's been an honor to do. It really has been a lot of fun to do. I got a chance to really talk to a lot of great people. Got a chance to talk to a lot of like great media minds, great football minds on this podcast. Just shoot the shit, talk some bullshit, nothing too crazy. And it's so enjoyable to get different perspectives, to make connections, to really just try our best to be great. And we are great. And to do the merchandise, to get places, we're the merchandise, to shout out the merchandise. It's just doing the tailgate, doing the crib, all of this stuff. It's so much fun and it's so meaningful to do this. So thank you, Case, for accepting my invitation. Thank you, Dan, for helping us so much. And thank you, Kev, whoever he is, for helping out too. Thank you. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, Kev is rolling over some sort of chick right now. I'm pretty sure he celebrated his birthday weekend. Shout out to Kev. Dan, definitely just as much a part of this show as us being in the front line. Just tell everybody about your experience working with Middle School Podcast behind the scenes, and how much of a journey this has been for you personally.
Yeah, man. It's been a lot of fun. And Case, if you remember, you and I were especially me and Kev too, we used to battle all the time on the timeline, but our love of the game brought us all together. And yeah, man, I mean, it's just been cool. It's great, and it's an honor, I should say, working with you guys and just seeing kind of where we've gone has been special. And I always say it to you guys privately. I'll say it to you guys, anybody who wants to listen to me. I feel like we do things the right way. And that's why this is even better. There's no gimmicks. There's no fakeness, if you will. It's all genuine stuff. And, it's not only us, right? It's all you guys, especially you guys that are here on this. We're all, one unit. And again, man, being part of something this genuine and just building it from the ground up with hard work and dedication and, respect for each other. It's a really special thing, especially in this day and age. You see how things are on the timeline all the time. Everybody jockeying for position. That's not what we're about. you know, we're just friends who love to do this shit. So I appreciate you guys putting up with me and letting me be a part of it. You know, honored. That's the word. And I'm going to take this here because it's still Sunday night. So cheers, guys. Thank you.
Salud. Steven, Seamus, Chris. You guys are just as much a part of this journey as the people who started this, as far as like, you know, just podcasting. Tell us your personal experiences, you know, with Middle of the Show podcast, and you know, just being along with us on this ride.
Yeah, I can go first. So, I mean, for me, I guess I'll just like take it to the beginning. So for me, it was kind of like when I first heard about it, I was just kind of like, oh shit, Jude Truth has a podcast. I didn't really know much else, to be honest, but you know, as I listened, you know, I definitely you know, because even part of it was just like I followed Jude on Twitter and just kind of like wanted to know like what he sounded like. So that was like kind of how I like the main reason I started listening. But then like, you know, I started listening. I was like, wow, like, you know, these guys got some chemistry, and like, you know, like they talk ball and they know ball, and like that, like this is really cool what they're doing. And then like to see it like, you know, evolve into like so much more than like, you know, just a podcast. Like, you know, to get to be a guest on an episode like a year ago and talk about the Islanders when they were on their playoff run, that was really cool. But, you know, to like go into Twitter spaces with you guys, like, you know, whether it's a Friday before a game or a Sunday night after a game, and, you know, just get out whatever feelings, whether it's frustration or good feelings, just having that, you know, you guys have provided like an avenue for people to, you know, connect and talk to each other. And, you know, and I can't say enough about how dope the tailgate was at the season opener. You know, the game itself was not so good, but I had a really good time like kicking it with you guys. You know, and I really like what you guys are doing, and definitely looking forward to doing that again.
Appreciate you. What about you guys, Steven, Seamus? Tell us,
Seamus,
you
you
know,
want to take this
how's
first?
it been rocking with us, man?
Yeah, so I think like listening to the like when, because I kind of started from the spaces. I forgot who I was following. I think it might have been like DJ or something like that. Like, and I kind of jumped into spaces, and like the thing that was pretty clear was like, and like from the spaces standpoint, like it was like during the pandemic. So I feel like there's also that kind of thing too of like we're all at home, we're all like connected via like, you know, Twitter and spaces like that, and that was kind of cool experience. I remember being very shy in the spaces because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to say anything, because a lot of sports spaces can be very, like, I'm a theater kid, like I like sports, but I'm like a theater kid, so like a lot of like, you never know, like with sports fans, if you say one wrong thing, they kind of jump at you. But I also felt the space is very welcoming for very casual fans as well. So if you weren't like so hardcore into the football or like any sport, like you were able to be like welcome, able to say whatever and still feel like like sharing the same spot. And then with like the podcast, like the thing that is so clear with like the podcast when I listen to your episodes is just like you can tell like you guys are friends, and like that infectious energy just comes off when you guys talk. And I feel like with podcasts, I just like it just reminds me of like when I talk to my friends about games and stuff like that. Like that's how it just felt like when I would listen to your podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, this is just kind of like conversation I would have with my friends. I feel like that's just like the big like I think that's like the important part of the podcast is that kind of like it reminds you of like you talking like football with your friends in another meeting. If this is making sense, I'm kind of rambling, so I might have to put a little bow and wrap it up.
Now, listen. If you ask Dan, the things that we've said as far as like how we want to be different, and Dan, I'll let everybody in on a little secret. If there's one person that keeps us grounded, it's Dan. Dan is like, look, we're not going to be like every other podcast and everything like that. We're going to pick them up. We're going to try to, you know, be a different type of show and give a different type of atmosphere, welcoming atmosphere. We're not going to be on some, yo, you can't come in here if you don't know ball. We don't know ball. You know what I mean? We're having fun with it just as much as everyone else is having fun with it. So the welcoming aspect and just in having people come on, because I love people, generally love people, and the people who mess with us, like I said, you guys are like family. I see y'all every Friday, every Sunday. We talk about the Jets, good or bad. If you guys, like I said, ever get an opportunity to come to the tailgate, make sure you come through. Steven, what are your thoughts?
Well, one, I'm learning that all these roads have started from Jude. Like he is one of the ones where I started noticing people were talking. It was specifically the Alex Smith quarterback talk back in the day. Just tweets were going around, and it was involving Jude and Alex Smith, and I just thought it was funny. And then shout out to Twitter for starting Spaces, because without that, I don't think we'd. At least I know I wouldn't be here, because I definitely wouldn't have. Been able to share myself and talk with you guys about the sports. But yeah, so like when Jude started the Spaces, I hopped on. Thing I love about you guys is just you guys are down to earth. Like you said, you're not like any other podcast. And what I love about it is you're just like real. Like we could just be in a bar talking sports, because like I'll never forget my one of my famous draft takes was taking Lindenbaum top 10, and I would finish, and a normal podcast host would be like, be like, all right, that's your take, and Case and everyone else is just like, that's an idiotic take. You don't take a center top 10. You don't do that. It's like, what are you thinking? It's just, that's what I love about it. Cause like you said, it's like a family atmosphere. Cause Case, this, like there's Fridays, like I will, no matter what I'm doing, I could be out with family, I could be out with friends, or I'll just be home bored. Like I'll be hitting up Case being like, hey, we're doing a Spaces today, right? Like that's my Friday, like plans. Like it's commitment and friendship and family over here. So that's what's made it so great. I always look forward to the Friday nights and the post game talks, because you guys are just so like down to earth and real when it comes to the Jets and your takes. And shout out, like Samus was saying, the thing I love about it too is like you guys are just like on that podcast. You guys are like friends. I mean, you guys could be on one topic and then just like an inside joke will happen and you guys are laughing and things like that. It's just great. So I really want to shout out you guys for one, welcoming me on, definitely this 100th episode, and again, episode on your podcast to talk about the Jets and everything in general. So I really do appreciate that. It was a great honor for me. Shout out to you guys, man.
Definitely appreciate you, Steven. And he's absolutely right. He'll jump in. As you see, as soon as I unmute my mic, my son wants to have a temper tantrum. I think we're going to call it a night because it's time for this little guy to go to bed. Say hi. You don't want to say hi? Say hi. Say hi, everybody. Say hi, Middle Initial Podcast. Say hi, Just Twitter. Say take flight. Say take flight. You see? Say take flight. But definitely,
Case, real quick, love that shirt. I love that shirt, man. I'm definitely gonna get me one of those shirts, man. I need that sauce shirt.
Definitely, bro. Listen, the Sauce Money is one of our best sellers.
Long sleeve and sweatpants stuff.
Roger Moore. Yeah, we got the sweatpants. We're working hard behind the scenes to make a whole bunch of stuff. Dan is making stuff. Curtis is making stuff. We're definitely working hard to make good quality merch for everybody. We don't want to do like everybody else and like step on everything with the Zach Wilson stuff. It gets kind of weird. You know what I mean? We have a couple of Zach Wilson shirts. The Team Zach Wilson, Team Zach Attack, and Saved by the Zach, which I love. Both designs done by Curtis. And Dan has dropped the ABT hoodie. I want you guys to get that. We're gonna drop the Breece Hall of Pain t-shirt. Everything's wrestling. So yeah, man, it's been fun. 100 episodes. Make sure everybody tunes in to the next one. Follow me at ACase Online. Follow Jude at Jude Truth. Follow Dan at DLO87. Follow Kev at KLEW24. Of course, follow us at MIPod69 on Instagram and on Twitter. And make sure you guys jump into the Spaces on Friday. You never know who's going to be there. Damian Woody, DJ Bienemy, Antoine Staley. We've had them all. We have several different guests be on the show. So once again, thank you guys. Salud, episode 100. Appreciate everyone. Love everyone. Peace.
Man, love, guys. Peace.
Adios.